Tonight, Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, once again returns to Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. I would suspect he's probably going to be on his tour bus with his manager, the Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President, Don Callis. So what can we and will we see from Kenny Omega tonight? What can we expect to see from Kenny Omega and Don Callis on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV? Well, it's going to be very interesting because the reports and rumours are that tonight's appearance by Kenny Omega on Impact on AXS TV is going to set up Kenny Omega's future matches inside of the Impact Zone, inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. So is that going to be against Rich Swann? Well, we did a video earlier today talking about that, and I think at this point it probably has to be. I think it probably will set up a future match with Rich Swann for the Impact and AEW World Championships. How will they do that? I think, look, it's going to be a promo on the tour bus once again. I think that's inevitable, isn't it? All of these promos have been filmed on that bus. Why? Because they were filmed after Impact had finished doing the TV tapings for the rest of the year. So Kenny Omega and Don Callis obviously spent a day filming all of these promos and vignettes on this tour bus. This included with Josh Matthews, Kyle Anderson, and probably Rich Swann as well. I would suspect if it's not Kenny Omega directly facing the camera and challenging Rich Swann for the World Championship, Rich Swann will somehow make his way onto the bus tonight and challenge Kenny Omega to a match. This would then lead to an Impact and AEW World Championship match either at Genesis or Hard to Kill in the coming January next year. So that is going to be very exciting to see. I think what's interesting also is going to be the ratings here, right? Last week, Impact Wrestling saw huge success with Kenny Omega's appearance, the appearance of the AEW World Champion, probably because, quite frankly, a lot of people didn't know what to expect, and there was a huge amount of buzz of what is going to happen tonight. No one really knew what the relationship between AEW and Impact Wrestling consisted of at the time. No one really knew what to expect from Kenny Omega and Don Callis. No one really knew what to expect from the appearance itself. What was the appearance going to consist of? Was Kenny Omega actually going to appear inside of the Impact Zone? Was he going to appear inside of the Impact ring? How were they going to manage it and edit it so it looked like Kenny Omega was actually close to the Impact Zone? And credit to Impact Wrestling, I think that they did a really good job when they did that. They tried their very, very best to give the impression that Kenny Omega was legitimately just outside of Skyway Studios there in Nashville, Tennessee, and I think they did a good job in doing that. Of course, Kenny Omega wasn't, but as I mentioned, these TVs were taped 2-3 weeks ago at this point, so that was always going to be the case. Nevertheless, they've obviously, when they were taping these promos, they obviously got a couple of Impact Wrestling talents, Kyle Anderson being one, Josh Matthews being the other, and I think Rich Swann, and they're probably going to get them involved. What was a nice touch as well when you had that promo at Final Resolution between Kyle Anderson and Kenny Omega is that they actually had Don Callis and Kenny Omega change clothes. I thought that was very well done. I know a lot of people don't really notice that kind of stuff, but it's the little details when you come to that sort of thing that I think are really important. Obviously, a lot of people won't notice that Kenny Omega and Don Callis change clothes, but if you do notice it, and I think this is the important thing, if you do notice those things, it takes you right out of the moment. Yes, we know that Kenny Omega and Don Callis filmed all of these vignettes, filmed all of these promos at the same time on the bus last week. We know that's the case, or last weekend, not last weekend, but the weekend before that, we know that was the case. But the fact that they're trying to keep up a little bit of continuity, the fact they're trying to give off the impression that legitimately Kenny Omega is just outside of the Impact Zone, they're in the parking lot, I think is really well done, and I think that's really good storytelling by Impact Wrestling. I also liked the explanation as to why Kenny Omega won't be going inside of the Impact Zone just yet, and that was Don Callis explaining that at Final Resolution on Saturday. He said Kenny Omega needs to be protected at all costs. Kenny Omega is the golden goose. He's the best wrestler in the world right now. I'm not letting him go anywhere near the Impact Zone, and I'm not letting him go anywhere near an Impact Wrestling ring, so I like the explanation for that. I think what is interesting as well, as I mentioned, I do think Rich Swann will confront Kenny Omega tonight on Impact on AXS TV, and I do think Rich Swann will make his way onto that tour bus, the 2020 version of the Lex Express. But I do like the idea as well of potentially an alliance between Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers going forward. Now, obviously at Final Resolution on Saturday, we had Kenny Omega and Kyle Anderson reunite. Don Callis said that Kenny Omega was there to talk to family, and that family was Kyle Anderson. And during the promo, during the segment at Final Resolution, they reminisced about their time in New Japan. They reminisced about their time as being part of the Bullet Club. Of course, Kenny Omega and Kyle Anderson were part of the Bullet Club together. Of course, Kyle Anderson as well, at one point, was the leader of the Bullet Club. I think he was the second leader of the Bullet Club. So obviously they have huge amounts of history, and so does Don Callis as well. He was part of all of that. People kind of forget that about Don Callis, that even though obviously Don Callis was never a member of the Bullet Club or anything like that, but for the majority of the time, especially for those big events, for instance, inside of the Tokyo Dome, he was right there at ringside. And the way they've explained it in the storyline is that Don Callis was right there at ringside, not just because he wanted to be a commentator for New Japan or he wanted to be the English color commentator for New Japan. The reason he was there was to help and guide Kenny Omega. The reason he was there is to be there when Kenny Omega did win titles, when he did win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. So all three guys have a huge history with New Japan and have a history with each other, and I like that that was played up at Final Resolution on Saturday. But what it actually really meant to me, and what it really hinted at to me, was that potentially we could see an alliance, a faction being formed here between Don Callis, Kenny Omega, and Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, because during that segment, they spoke about their time, reminisced about their time in New Japan, but then they also spoke about Carl Anderson's match coming up with Ethan Page at Final Resolution on Saturday, and they said, so you got a match tonight, and then they spoke about, Carl Anderson and the G1 and his time in New Japan. They said that Carl Anderson shouldn't have any issues with Ethan Page tonight. If that Carl Anderson appears, they shouldn't have any problems with him. Why are you sweating Ethan Page? And it wasn't meant, and I thought they did this well as well, it wasn't meant as a diss towards Ethan Page. It wasn't like people are going, because Ethan Page is leaving, they're trying to bury him on the way out. Nothing silly or reckless or anything like that. It was kind of just a way to make Carl Anderson, I suppose, doubt himself. And when you do that kind of stuff, it reminded me last year with Monday Night Raw with AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson, where they kind of did the same thing with AJ Styles. Gallows and Anderson said to him at the time, AJ Styles has gone soft. This isn't the AJ Styles from Japan. This isn't the AJ Styles that was part of the Bullet Club. Obviously, they just mentioned the club. They didn't mention the Bullet Club or anything like that. But they said that AJ Styles had gone soft, and the AJ Styles of Japan wouldn't let people like Ricochet talk to him and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. And it was kind of the same principle here. It was Kenny Omega talking to Carl Anderson and saying Carl Anderson shouldn't have a problem with Ethan Page. If it was the Carl Anderson from New Japan, he wouldn't have a problem with Ethan Page. I want to see the machine gun version of Carl Anderson. I want to see the real Carl Anderson come back. And it was a bit of a... They kind of played it off like Carl Anderson was being slightly disrespected, I suppose. But I think in reality, it was there to plant a seed of doubt in the mind of Carl Anderson and think, you know what, maybe I have gone soft. Maybe I do need to up my game. Maybe I do need to join forces with Kenny Omega and Don Callis, because I think that's the direction that this is headed in. Now, obviously, Doc Gallows isn't part of Impact Wrestling at the moment. He missed the last TV tapings. Storyline-wise, it was because Ethan Page attacked him and he was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. In reality, he missed the TV tapings because he had an acting role, and he's going to be back at the next set of TV tapings, and I'm very sure he'll get involved in this storyline with Don Callis and Kenny Omega going forward. So I think eventually what we could see a situation, and we might see it expanded on tonight during this tour bus segment once again with Kenny Omega and Don Callis. We might see Carl Anderson once again speaking to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega congratulates Carl Anderson on his victory at Final Resolution, said that's the machine gun I wanted to see, that's the machine gun I know from New Japan. And then eventually Carl Anderson joins the side of the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega and Don Callis. And then when Doc Gallows return, initially he's a bit hesitant, what's going on here? Eventually, once again, he sides with his tag team partner and his former Bullet Club partner in Kenny Omega, and a guy he knows very well in Don Callis, the guy that helped sign him to Impact and was there with him in New Japan as well as a color commentator. They all form together, and then they are the faction that essentially takes on, as it were, AEW and actually holds AEW to ransom. Obviously, the storyline is that Impact Wrestling and Kenny Omega and Don Callis screwed over the AEW president, Tony Khan, the naive billionaire, and was screwed over by the Carney ex-wrestler in Don Callis. We could see all of these stars join forces here. We see a little bit of a Bullet Club reunion, as it were, in Impact Wrestling or something like that. And that's how you get the Good Brothers facing off against the Young Bucks in AEW, because we know that match is happening. It was reported on previously, before Kenny Omega even made his appearance last week on Impact, it was reported the Good Brothers are going to face the Young Bucks inside of an AEW ring. Last week as well, AEW President Tony Khan, he appeared in that paid advertisement on Impact on AXS TV, and he actually spoke about scouting some tag teams in Impact Wrestling. That was a subtle hint, a nod to the Good Brothers coming over to AEW for a match against the Young Bucks. And I think that's how this all happens, is by Kenny Omega and Don Callis. We have the Good Brothers align themselves with Omega and Don Callis in either tonight's episode of Impact or upcoming episodes of Impact on AXS TV. This then leads to whenever Kenny Omega and Don Callis appear next on AEW Dynamite, they have the Good Brothers with them. Then the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega maybe turn on the Young Bucks or something like that, or the Good Brothers face off against the Young Bucks. Of course, Kenny Omega is still in the Elite, with the Young Bucks, and maybe it's a case of Kenny Omega brings together the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks, and they face off and they have their match. All of this runs through Kenny Omega and Don Callis, so I'm very excited tonight because we're going to see this announcement of how this Kenny Omega and whoever he faces in Impact Wrestling, that's going to be announced tonight. So I'm very excited, but as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Kenny Omega's appearance tonight on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV? What are your predictions for the segment, for the show tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, all that fun stuff. So get involved with the community below. We've got a great community here on Wrestle News 365 that's ever growing. All opinions are welcome, so be sure to get involved. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.